Hello everyone, my name is Captain Sean, and today I'm going to be giving a special length and in-depth review on what I consider to be one of the most relevant TV shows ever made, Boy Meets World. A 90s sitcom that provided comedy, yes, but also provided strong life lessons for children, teenagers, and adults alike. I'll be analyzing this series season by season, discussing character development, story arcs, favorite comedy moments, but most importantly, I'll also be discussing the important moral themes that this show had. And now for the review, starting with Season 1. Upon watching Boy Meets World Season 1 for the first time, you really have to remember what decade the show was made in. This show premiered in the early 1990s when there were lots of safe and family-friendly sitcoms on TV. Thus, Boy Meets World was kind of created to just kind of add another family-friendly spot to ABC's Friday night lineup of all-age comedies. The show featured a standard traditional family, and the show's main star was a young boy who sometimes got into trouble, but was still beloved by many. The show even featured a younger sibling who was really just there to be silly, something other shows like Full House were really exploiting. However, even in the very first episode, something Boy Meets World proved was that this was going to be a show that was going to teach you all important life lessons. This wasn't just some silly show that only featured situations to set up laughs. This was a show that was going to teach you basic life lessons about the importance of education, family, friendship, responsibility, and what real love truly is. Plus, the second episode of the series, On the Fence, did something that very few sitcoms did then and almost never do now, by giving us a portrayal of a very moral yet still realistic father who isn't rich and has to work incredibly hard to support his family. Now, I will admit that it only took about 2 episodes for me to get interested in this show. However, I was definitely hooked, as were millions of fans back in the day, by the 4th episode, Corey's Alternative Friends. In the episode, series main character, young Corey Matthews, is having issues with his appearance and accidentally ruins his hair. This causes him to be laughed at by his friends, and in turn, he has to find a new group of friends, or more specifically, a new friend that he thought he could never get along with, Topanga. From her very first appearance, Topanga proved to be one of the most strangest, yet still likable child characters on television. She is incredibly eccentric, yet highly intelligent. Every scene in which she interacts with Corey in her first episode is highly entertaining to watch. There are plenty of laughs, and yet there are still some good emotional bits as well. And of course, the final minutes of the episode flash huge foreshadowings on the future of the series. The rest of the series is a pretty straightforward family sitcom. You have basic life lesson adventures aimed at the kid audience, stories that show the bonding of a family, and the silly little shenanigans that weave their way into every episode. The series is a very safe, family-friendly sitcom that you can easily share with all members of the family. Now, even though the first season is very simple at times, Boy Meets World Season 1 is still a pretty enjoyable start to the series. It's a bit corny and repetitive, but remember, this is what 90s television was at the time. The series' strongest parts, though, come from the performances of Ben Savage as Corey Matthews, Daniel Fishel as Topanga Lawrence, and the ever-professional William Daniels as Mr. Feeney. Plus, an honorable mention must be given to the young Lily Nixay, who portrayed Corey's younger sister Morgan, who was able to say quite a number of funny lines throughout the first season.
911. Hello? Yes, I'm stuck here and I can't get down. My parents are outside fighting. Listen.
You're drowning my Flora bunkers!
They just shot the neighbor!
However, the writers must be commended as well for their stories that featured a very moral set of parents working very hard to bring up their children. These parents weren't rich, and getting by financially wasn't always easy for them, but they still made sure they had time to be with their children. This season is definitely a must-watch for young children and their families. However, the all-age family-friendly feel gets a bit lost in the second season.
Hey!
What'd I do?
You were almost in my way.
In the second season, a great deal of the series' focus switches mainly over to the young characters starting in a new school. Very soon after the series gets going, though, it becomes quickly obvious that this is not the all-age family-friendly sitcom anymore. While still done in a very tasteful manner, the show begins to quickly dive into more mature topics, but from a coming-of-age perspective. Concepts such as puberty, bullying, the inappropriateness of young boys and girls sleeping together, parental neglect, the dangers of joining gangs, and other tough topics weave their way into many, but not all, episodes. What used to be a show that was appropriate for children 5 and up suddenly turns into a show for children 10 and up. However, one could argue that younger children could still watch many of the episodes, but viewing all of the episodes with parents would be highly advised, a piece of advice that should stay in place for the rest of the series. The strongest factor going for this season, though, again, is that every episode has a positive moral message to teach viewers, albeit mostly preteen and teen viewers this time around. Alongside its switch to the new school, Season 2 also brings about even more changes. Gone from the series now is Stuart Minkus, a nerdy kid from Season 1, didn't really serve the plot much, and in his place is the new series star, Mr. Turner, a hip young English teacher who provides an interesting contrast to the traditional teaching methods of Mr. Feeney, who is now the new school principal. Also, more interesting plot lines are given to Corey's older brother Eric, who now gets more screen time since both brothers are attending the same school now. Sadly, though, Corey's younger sister Morgan starts to do less and less as the series goes on, to the point where in the last half of the season, you barely see her for even a couple minutes. Notable episodes in this season would definitely include the first episode, Back to School, the silly student protest episode, Meet Mr. Joe, the sad romance story, The Beard, and the episode with a very moral story about the importance of education, By Hook or by Crook. Another fun factor about this season is the expanding number of supporting characters that start to show up. Interesting plots show up from the start of the season with the inclusion of school bullies, Harley, Frankie, and Joey. Plus, some of the best comedic plot lines with Eric also include his best friend Jason, played by Jason Marsden. The only sad thing that comes out of the expanding roster of characters, though, is that it causes some of the main characters to get less screen time, especially series favorite Topanga, who winds up being absent for 10 episodes and does very little in most of the episodes she does show up in. The season's strongest parts show up near the end as what has been deemed as the saga of Sean Hunter begins. In the episode, Wrong Side of the Tracks, Sean Hunter, Corey's best friend and a boy with a bad upbringing, believes that he has nothing positive going for him in his life, and he starts to join a bad gang. This results in a very dramatic and powerful confrontation between Corey and Sean, though.
I don't know anything. I don't even know who I am.
Well, Sean, I know who you are. You're Sean Hunter. You're my friend. It says so in your biography. I mean, what else do you need to know?
I need to know what's going to happen to me, and you can't tell me that.
Hey, Hunter. All Matthews can do is be your friend. And so far, he's been doing a real good job. All I can do is teach you whatever I can and hope that you'll leave my class a little better than when you came in.
Then later in the final 2 episodes of the season, Career Day and Home, Sean has to deal with the logistic issues and emotional ramifications that occur when his mother runs away from the family, and soon after his father does as well.
None of you want me. Well, that's fine. I don't need any of you. I never needed anybody.
The episodes not only shine a light on the difficulties that young people from broken families come from, but it also spends time focusing on Corey realizing that he needs to be more grateful for the family that he does have.
Listen, I never really thanked you for coming to school yesterday.
No problem. Sorry I couldn't compete with that guitar player and that foot doctor.
Well, that's only because you left out the most important thing you do.
What's that?
What you do after work. I mean, around here, for us, for our friends.
Cor, that's nothing.
It's everything, Dad. I mean, I was thinking I was the son of a grocer, but now I know what I really am is, well, the son of my father.
Boy Meets World Season 2 is, in a sense, a whole new beginning, as the series moves from being the story about a kid and his family, and more about teenagers starting to grow up. While the more mature stories may shock audiences that like the family-friendly feel of Season 1, it should be reminded that life isn't always family-friendly, and that as you get older, more and more serious and mature things will occur. It's just good to have a TV show out there, though, that shows good moral stories that go about teaching young people how to deal with those more serious and mature things as they come along. Now, Boy Meets World Season 3 continues the coming-of-age saga that began with the second season, but there are 2 important twists that start in this season. Teen romance starts to blossom, and characters begin to realize more than ever the importance of education. All of the characters and lingering plotlines from the previous season return, while character dynamics change very little this year, aside from Corey's younger sister Morgan being played by a new actress, and there's also another new teacher in the building, Eli Williams. This season for the first time features ongoing subplots that occur throughout the majority of the season. The most prominent of these is the Corey and Topanga love story. Any episode that gives focus on Corey and Topanga's romance always features good comedy and raw emotion. This is especially true in the episode My Best Friend's Girl, when Corey tells Topanga the words, I love you, causing Topanga to feel very uncertain of how to respond to Corey's words of affection. Now this results in Corey going to friends and family, asking them if he spoke from the heart too soon with Topanga. However, this results in some huge comedy gold when Corey starts a conversation with his mother about what happened.
I went too far with Topanga.
Oh my God. did this happen?
She looked so pretty, Mom, and there we were all alone. In the back room at Chubby's. Mom! No, that's not what happened.
Well, all right then.
Look, I just told Topanga I loved her, and she didn't feel the same way.
The end of the episode results in a very heartfelt ending, though, which feels like something that almost came out of a fairy tale, yet it's still grounded in reality.
All I know is you and I belong together. I mean, I've always been able to talk to you, to make you laugh, and I've always wanted to take care of you. All right. Topanga, I've been completely honest with you. So, I got my jean jacket, so I'll leave you alone.
Corey,
Uh-huh.
I love you too.
I was always hoping you did.
Now, I won't lie, some of the episodes focusing on Corey and Topanga do feel like they're from a teen chick flick at times, but thanks to the lovely performances by the actors, it's still pretty enjoyable. The second most featured subplot of this season is the growth of Sean Hunter. During this season, Sean has to deal with the classic teen issues of finding his identity, dealing with changes in the dynamics with his friends, and coping with his still existing connections to his broken family. This all occurs as he begins living with his English teacher, Mr. Turner. Now, the whole idea of a student living with their teacher really does border on inappropriate. However, the situation only does occur because Sean was having a very difficult time in his life and nobody else was showing any desire to help him out. Plus, Mr. Turner is portrayed as not just hanging out with teenagers, and he does spend time with other adults, including his best friend, Eli Williams, another teacher at the school. However, aside from hanging out with Turner, Eli Williams sadly served very little point to the season's ongoing plots, and he pretty much disappears by the end of the season. Another notable subplot that occurred this season, though, was Corey's older brother Eric reaching the end of high school and attempting to get into college. For many episodes, Eric is shown either trying to study for tests like the SATs, trying to find methods to make some more money, or obtain some sort of internship. This results in a very serious and down-to-earth episode, Stormy Weather, when Eric, who feels like a failure at school but a success at his new job, considers dropping out of school. The very announcement of his dropout idea results in some very heated yet understandable arguments between Eric and his father.
I'm not going to remain quiet while my son makes the biggest mistake of his life. Now, you may be some big-shot weatherman down at Channel whatever it is, but here, you're still my son living in my house.
Yeah, but I'm 18 today.
Fine. You want to play adult? Then let's play. You want to continue sleeping in that room of yours upstairs? You pay rent. Car insurance. You pay that, too. Groceries. Are you starting to get the idea?
Yeah, I get it. I get that you two don't realize how important this job is to me.
As the season draws to a close, Eric, however, puts as much work as he can into finishing high school strong and trying to get into college. While many of the stories about Eric do produce lots of comedy, the more serious stories about him that delved into the importance of a proper education are very well written. In fact, Will Friedle, the actor who plays Eric, should be commended for his performance as he bounces back and forth between drama and comedy throughout this season. I mean, the fact that he would later go on to play the very serious Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond and the very silly Ron Stoppable in Kim Possible should prove that this guy has a very wide acting range. Now, when Boy Meets World Season 4 came along, the comedy got way more sillier and the drama got way more serious. Now, I have to quickly point out that somewhere before Season 3 ended, there was a 2-year age jump. So in this season, Corey and all his friends start out at being 15 years old. They never announced this jump happened, so you just kind of have to go with it. Eric, however, now is a young adult out of high school, and the season starts immediately off with a plot that would continue for the rest of the series. Eric being unable to find a job, and him trying not to just find a job, but his place in life. Meanwhile, Corey and Topanga grow closer than ever in their relationship, and go to great lengths to stay together when their families begin to pull them apart. This all happens, though, while additional characters begin to grow and change, including Corey's best friend, Sean. For example, early in the season, a series of notable and well-written stories featuring Sean's family start to occur. You see, in one episode early in the 4th season, Fishing for Verna happens, which is a story that features Sean's family surprisingly coming back together. However, things aren't easy as Sean's parents have to work hard to repair their relationship. Meanwhile, episodes revolving around Eric's growth prove to be both the funniest and most mature of the series. While some episodes feature Eric poorly finding work and/or failing on the job in pure comedic fashion, other episodes feature very mature stories that feature a young man trying to find his place in the world. One such prominent episode would be the story Uncle Daddy, in which Eric begins dating a young woman who is also a single mom.
Hi, Mommy.
Mommy, that would be like...
Eric,
I would like for you to meet my son, Ryan.
The episode deals with Eric considering leaving his fun single life behind him in an attempt to be a more mature and responsible adult so that he can support this potential new family of his. The story is very adult in that it features a character contemplating making a choice that only young adult audiences can relate to. In fact, one could argue that this was the episode that catapulted Boy Meets World from being less of a teenage coming-of-age series to being more of an emerging young adult series.
Just because I'm a mom doesn't mean that you have to be a dad.
Kelly, I'm not looking to get out of this.
I know that, Eric. But listen to me. You still have so many options available to you in your life. Take advantage of them.
Another notable plot point that must be mentioned, though, is the ongoing romance of Corey and Topanga. In the two-part story, A Long Walk to Pittsburgh, Topanga's parents are planning to move far away, a move that would literally separate Corey and Topanga. The two teens fight hard to stay together, even to a point where Topanga runs away from home and both teens have to fight and convince their families that they must stay together no matter what. The two-part miniseries attempts to be like a modern version of Romeo and Juliet in both its story and epic scale. The episode even features Corey, like Romeo in the original Shakespeare play, speaking of his love for Topanga in a huge, emotionally filled, heartfelt speech.
And then when I was 13, Mom, she put me up against my locker. She kissed me. I mean, she gave me my first kiss. She taught me how to dance. She always was talking about these crazy things, and I never understood a word she said. All I understood was that she was the girl I sat up every night thinking about. And when I'm with her, I feel happy to be alive. Like I can do anything. Even talk to you like this. So that's what I think is love, Mom. When I'm better because she's here.
Now one could argue that two 16-year-olds feeling this level of intense romance is a bit unrealistic. However, one could also argue that this kind of stuff and this story alone gained the show lots of more interested fans, particularly female fans.
Did you hear what she said?
Yeah, she said you're staying here.
Now watching many of the episodes from this season back to back is actually kind of strange at times. For starters, some episodes are very, very, very silly, while others are very, very, very serious. For example, you got silly episodes such as Shallow Boy, the comedic story where Corey and Topanga do a babysitting job together, and Affair to Forget, the super over-the-top bromance episode, and of course, Chick Like Me, the very awkward yet super comedic episode where Corey and Sean go undercover as girls.
How you doing, honey? I'm Cora. I'll be your waitress this evening.
But soon after those episodes, you got much more serious episodes, such as Dangerous Secret, a story in which Corey and Sean try to protect a girl who's been physically abused by her father, along with Cult Fiction, a dramatic story in which Sean thinks he's found real love with a cult. But when his teacher, Mr. Turner, gets hurt in a motorcycle accident, Sean realizes who his real friends are, and more importantly, finds that he can only find comfort with God.
Honey, Mr. Mac.
No, he can't help you with this. Sean, what is the matter with you?
I don't know, but I can't look at him like this. Corey, come on, let me go.
No.
Corey, let me go.
Sean, this is a hug, okay? This is a hug. And this is when you hug somebody, when you care about them, and then you want them to know that. Now, you cannot leave here. Do you hear me? Turner took care of you. He loves you. And you love him. Is that real? Or are Mr. Mac and the center real? You decide, but you cannot go.
While it is strange to watch a series with such a wide variety of stories, it is really amazing to watch the actors who in one episode give you corny comedy, show you just how good a dramatic performer they can be in the next episode.
So don't blow me off, John. Don't blow me off, God. I've never asked you for anything, and I never wanted to come to you like this. But don't take Turner away from me. He's not done yelling at me yet. God, you're not talking, but I know you're here. So I'm gonna talk. And you can listen.
Now, Boy Meets World Season 5 is the point in the show's history in which the series transitioned from being a family show that featured a teenage coming-of-age story to an emerging young adult romance and comedy show. The main characters of the show now are all 17 years old and higher in this season, so they all start to become more like adults. The biggest early change in the season appears in the very first episode of the season as the audience is introduced to Sean's long-lost half-brother Jack, played by Matthew Lawrence. At first it feels odd to add just another young male character to a show that already has 3. However, Jack's presence allows for 2 important new dynamics in the show. First, since he is Sean's brother, it gives Sean a chance to interact with another guy who isn't Corey. Second, Jack and Eric quickly become college roommates, which allows Eric another guy his age to interact with, something he hadn't had for 2 seasons. Another change that occurs in this season is that the silly stuff gets way sillier and begins to get a little more bizarre. At first, the season's comedy is pretty simple, with Corey, who's starting to act more neurotic this season, tries to film his own reality show as a class project. However, things start to get very out of control silly in an episode where a group of witches show up trying to take over Jack and Eric's apartment. Then in the next episode, a talking magical cat sends everybody back in time to World War II. Yes, supernatural silliness enters the show. Now the supernatural thing dies down pretty quick after that, but the silliness continues to crank itself up in the episode Last Tango in Philly, in which in the midst of a very silly story about jealous couples, all the men, as a means to get their ladies to like them better, do something that's never been done in the show before this point. A musical dance number. However, insanity and silliness gets cranked up to the max in the horror movie parody episode And Then There Was Sean, in which a killer is getting rid of many students in the school, but the characters run around and act crazy like they're in a cartoon show, including lots of high-pitched screaming.
Oh my gosh! They killed Feeny!
The show even starts to break the fourth wall and go meta in an episode in which Eric gets a job starring in a sitcom in which the sets look just like his home and the actors look just like his family members.
You know, how can I learn so much every week and still be so stupid? I'll make you stop.
In the midst of the insanity, though, the show does slow down and have some more tender moments. Sean Hunter, who's never had the same girlfriend for more than 2 weeks, finally finds the love of his life, Angela. The slowly developed relationship has a lot of more realistic feelings in it, and there's pretty good emotion in the stories that feature both of them. In addition, Angela provided more interesting dynamics for the show in that she and Sean gave viewers an alternate couple to watch, and for the first time in the show's history, she gave Topanga another girl in the show to talk to. Sadly, a low point in the series begins in Heartbreak Corey, the first episode in a story arc that results in Corey cheating on Topanga, the two breaking up, only for them to predictably get back together 5 episodes later. The stories are incredibly predictable, and aside from the secondary plots, the episodes are pretty bland. The only exception, however, would be the much more mature episode, If You Can't Be With the One You Love, in which both Corey and Sean drink alcohol as a means to forget their problems. The alcohol problems are solved in just 1 episode, but it still features some very relevant moral messages for all audiences to see.
You don't have a clue, do you?
About what?
About Dad.
Yeah. Dad used to drink, and then he stopped. Next.
You know why he stopped drinking?
Because he ran out of money?
You know why my mom left him?
Because she went for a guy with more money?
She left him because he was an abusive, ugly drunk. Don't you ever talk about my son! Son! Stop! He's my father too, man. Alcoholism is in our family, and you shouldn't drink.
Now, when Corey and Topanga do get back together, the scenario is used as a means to catapult them into loving each other more than ever now. Then, as the season comes to a close at a high school graduation ceremony scene in which the characters are getting ready for a future where anything could happen, Topanga asks Corey a question.
Will you marry me?
And then we begin Boy Meets World Season 6, the point in where the series finally stopped being a coming-of-age story or an emerging adult series and finally becomes a full-fledged adult show. After years of waiting, all of the young stars of the show are now full-fledged adults, living independently from their parents, experiencing adult situations, and making strictly adult-level choices. The 6th season kicks off into strictly adult territory, when both Corey and Topanga contemplate getting married together. The conversations about deciding when the best time to get married is in this opening story are very relevant and could definitely be used as a great time to create discussions amongst young adult viewers watching. Eventually, Corey and Topanga decide to simply have a prolonged engagement period. The positive side to this decision is that it eventually launched a long series of plots about Corey and Topanga getting to better know one another and think much more clearly about what they were getting into when they finally did get married. Again, the conversations Corey and Topanga have about planning their future married life in many episodes this season could be used as a great means for young adults who are contemplating getting married to have similar conversations. But it's not all drama for these two lovebirds. The two still have very comedic scenes together throughout the entire season.
Great. Are you sure this is the right song for us?
Topanga, you heard Angela and Ron. Now, if we want to win this, we must sing something dramatic.
I know, I just don't think this is the right song for us.
You want to win or not?
Yes, I want to win. I just don't think that you and I are the right people to express this particular sentiment.
Topanga, it's a beautiful song. And we're gonna sing it. Hit it, Cap'n Randy!
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
War!
Good God, you all.
This is all a big joke to you, right, Topanga?
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing. Say
Sing
it
it,
again.
Topanga, sing it. I don't like the war. War's not good.
No more.
No more war, Topanga. I'll tell you why. I'm gonna cry. We don't like war. Not you or you. Or I. I've got to run because I don't like war.
While topics such as marriage happen on one side of the episodes this season, on the other side, we get much more crazy and insane plots with Eric and Jack. At the beginning of the new season, Eric and Jack get a new female roommate named Rachel, who they take in after she becomes homeless due to breaking up with her fiancé. This instantly causes a very silly love triangle to occur. For the first half of the season, both Eric and Jack go to extreme and comedic lengths to get Rachel to like each of them. The majority of these silly scenarios wind up having very little to do with the rest of the episode, teach no relevant moral messages, are almost unrealistic at times, but they are incredibly funny to watch. It's almost like watching another TV show at times. Also, Will Friedle's performance as Eric gets incredibly more entertaining this season. His comedic timing, his voice, and his facial expressions in every scene he is in are comedy gold. He's practically a live-action cartoon character at times, and it is awesome.
Ow! Hey, what? What? Hey! Ow!
Dude, let's go.
Meanwhile, the only other ongoing plots going on during the first half of the season relate to the other young characters starting college. These plots are mixed in quality and even a bit controversial at times, especially since the characters, and by extension the show as a whole, begin using more adult language and references that catapult this show into PG-13 territory, therefore making this show lose its entire child audience, at least children who have parents who are more cautious about what their kids watch, and it makes the show feel truly more adult than ever before. However, there are still a few golden moments though. There is one very well done episode in the first half of the season called Everybody Loves Stuart, an episode where a college professor comes on to Topanga in a very inappropriate way, causing a series of sadly realistic and relevant conversations and confrontation scenes to happen that relate to the inappropriate conduct and the appropriate way to defend oneself if a scenario like that actually happens. It was the first of what would later be many episodes that would remind both the characters and the viewers the adult world is far less safer and more complicated than you thought it was when you were younger.
A teacher must be someone a student can trust. The second the teacher uses pressure on a student for any reason whatsoever other than academic, that trust is destroyed.
Well, there must be some sort of misunderstanding because as a teacher...
Stuart, this is a teacher, Stuart. I'm not sure what you are. but you can be certain I'm going to find out.
The majority of the second half of Season 6 brings back the much more dramatic feel of the show that hasn't been felt in a while. Starting with We'll All Have a Good Time Then, Sean suddenly finds himself dealing with a huge mix of emotions and has an identity crisis when his father dies. Then the series reaches its emotional, dramatic peak in the episodes My Baby Valentine and Resurrection, in which Corey's new baby brother is born prematurely, resulting in very serious medical complications. The characters' reactions and conflicted feelings over seeing a baby experiencing so much sickness and pain is very emotional and moving to watch, especially when it's revealed that there are actually several newborn babies in the hospital that are also experiencing medical complications as well. There's a particularly moving scene where Corey's father is in the hospital and is shown talking to another father.
Michael, how's your son?
I think he smiled at me.
Hey, say one for my boy, will ya?
Oh, these are for all of us.
It's a very moving moment that reminds both characters and viewers that even when you're experiencing pain, it never hurts to stop and pray for others who are going through similar pain as well. The story is powerful in that it doesn't teach a message about how to succeed at dealing with a high level of grief, but it does show that seeking help through family, friends, and prayer is the first step towards working through that grief. The season finishes with a few more serious storylines, such as Can I Help to Cheer You?, a story in which Eric contemplates adopting a little boy from an orphanage who has come to love him, along with a few sillier stories such as the very comedic Godfather parody episode Be True. However, emotions get high again in the season finale State of the Unions, in which Topanga learns her parents are experiencing serious marital conflicts and may be heading towards a divorce.
People change. Daddy, why is Mom talking like this?
We didn't want to dump this on you. We wanted to wait until after the wedding. Honey, we tried. We tried as hard as we...
You guys will get through this. Marriage is not something to get through, Topanga. That's not why I got married. Oh, God. No, God. Oh, sweetheart. You, Daddy, and I...
Maybe we just got married too young.
Jed. Not you. This has nothing to do with you.
The final scene of the episode hints that both Corey and Topanga are both starting to become more uncertain about their future together and are reconsidering what marriage and love as a whole truly is. Boy Meets World Season 7 starts immediately off with continuing the painful plotline of the previous season in which Topanga's parents are heading towards a divorce. The incident results in Topanga losing her faith in both marriage and love as a whole and breaks up with Corey. However, unlike the past two times where the two broke up, this breakup feels a lot more realistic and relevant to the overall series plot. For the several episodes in which Corey and Topanga are not a couple, the two have to learn again, this time from a more mature perspective, about what two people must put into a marriage to make it work. Now the two do get back together, but not before these characters have some pretty good discussions about what marriage as a whole is. Eventually we get 3 episodes dedicated to their wedding. Starting with the episode They're Killing Us, the show hit its greatest golden moments in comedy ever. Since the writers knew that this would be the only opportunity in the show's history to showcase the scenario of Corey and Topanga getting married, they milk every good joke possible out of the wedding planning antics and the wedding itself. The funniest set of scenes by far is when Corey has to pick his best man for the wedding, resulting in a hilarious series of antics that show why Eric is definitely the worst choice for best man.
So don't you want somebody who's strong enough to lift you up for the traditional For He's a Jolly Good Fellow dance?
I've actually never heard of the For He's a Jolly Good Fellow dance.
Oh, here, I'll show you.
No, I'd prefer that
No, you're gonna...
No, Eric,
you're gonna know for the He's a jolly good fellow. For He's a jolly good fellow.
Oh, my God, look, it's happening.
Eric, look what you did. Eric! The curtains are on fire. The curtains are on fire. They're chopping up the dorm room. They're chopping up the dorm room. My brother is a moron, which nobody can deny.
We would like your brother to be your best man.
This is the eternal flame of the love of the Matthews.
He's out! Sean's in!
Somebody save the baby! Somebody save the baby!
Sparklers are fun.
The wedding episodes still do feature some pretty good emotional bits though, such as Sean dealing with the loss of his best friend, since he believes that once Corey is married, his best friend will be gone. As soon as the honeymoon ends, though, the later episodes of the season prove to be the most mature of the entire series. Mature in that they delve into what adult maturity truly looks like. As soon as they get back to their hometown, Corey and Topanga realize that their naive beliefs that they would suddenly have a place to live get shot out the window. They can't stay with or receive help from their family or friends due to a lack of available housing and a lack of available financial aid. Add to the issue that Corey and Topanga are both still college students, and suddenly the show presents one of its most intriguing and most realistic problems ever. The show, both through character discussion and incidents as well, give rise to the question, is getting married young with little money the best life choice? Now, the show doesn't answer that question, but for a series of episodes, Boy Meets World becomes one of the fewest shows in the history of television to show that being a young, independent married couple in the world can be incredibly difficult. The show must be highly commended this season for its realistic portrayal of young adulthood and its portrayal of young marriage as a whole. Now, the remainder of the season does a pretty decent balance between balancing the crazy situation comedy bits and the stories that delve into maturity. The majority of the side plots with Eric, though, go into super silly territory, including several episodes where Eric dresses up and puts on new identities.
My name is Plays with Squirrels. I married a moose. We don't need counseling.
The final 3 episodes of the season give a very ideal closure to the entire series. In the penultimate story, Angela's Ashes, we get a very mature, intelligent, and thought-provoking plot that isn't about good choices versus bad choices, but rather about the difficulty of weighing 2 good choices against one another. The final 2 episodes, though, while having some oddly inserted flashbacks, feature a very solid conclusion to the series. Characters plan for the future as new job and college-related opportunities arise that would involve the characters moving far away from family, friends, and comfortable, familiar settings. So as their final test in adult maturity, the characters choose to move away from the familiar in order to go to new places where they can properly grow more. The final scene of the series in which the characters say goodbye to their longtime teacher, Mr. Feeney, perfectly caps off and boils all the life lessons of the show down into just a few sentences. It's a very ideal ending scene indeed.
Believe in yourselves. Dream. Try. Do good.
Don't you mean do well?
No, I mean do good.
Boy Meets World is an amazing program that does far more than what any average sitcom has ever done before. Now, the show is flawed, don't get me wrong, but the series proves that something flawed, whether it's a person or a TV show, can still be used to do something amazing. From the very beginning, life lessons that it revolved around growing up were always present in the series. The majority of its run focused on the moral lessons that come when you go from being a kid to a teenager, and finally from being a teenager to an adult. The themes of the show are timeless and relevant to all. People will always enjoy fantasy, action, intriguing drama, and adventure shows, but people need shows like Boy Meets World in their life that actually teach important moral lessons. The show taught realistic and relevant life lessons about how growing up isn't easy, listening to the adults in your life has value, getting a proper education is important, friendship is very special, love takes both time and effort to grow, and above all else, the importance of always doing good. This is why I consider Boy Meets World to be one of the most relevant and possibly one of the greatest TV shows ever made. And if you've never seen the show before, go check it out now.
I love you all. Class dismissed.